Hi, to our DWLA membership. I'm Marisa Sullivan. I am a commercial policyholder, insurance coverage lawyer, principal at Amy Stewart Law here in Dallas. And today I'm with Charlene Wandrisco, director and senior attorney at American Airlines. Charlene is going to talk to us today. Hopefully all the DWLA members are at home in a comfy pair of pants while we talk. But she's going to talk to us today about a few things. First, a bit about her practice and how things have changed pre and post COVID world. And then second, what outside counsel can do to make purposeful connections during this time and increase their chances to get some engagements from wonderful clients like Charlene. So Charlene, I hope you're ready to start. This will be a short conversation, but hopefully super helpful to our membership. So the first thing that I think is always really important as outside counsel is to understand our clients' day-to-day workload, the responsibilities that they have, the people that they report to, how things are working internally, what their business is going through at the time. So could you give us a little bit of background about what you do at American Airlines?
Sure. So I currently am, as you said, the director and senior attorney, and I'm in the corporate commercial group. And so we do all of the deal work for American Airlines. And that's anything ranging from buying cups for the airplanes to the major engine deals to any sort of partnerships that we have as related to other airlines or hotel partnerships or things like that through our loyalty programs. But we do pretty much any kind of deal work you would need to do for the airline, which is vast. And so before the pandemic, what our group was really much, we're a very small, lean and mean group within the legal department. Our legal department itself is really small, but certainly even just our deal work people, we're the attorneys where you have about 5 or 6 before the pandemic hit. And our real focus was managing and overseeing outside counsel. And so because we were so small and we have such a big breadth of work that was there, we really heavily relied on outside counsel. And with that, because of the large number of matters coming in, we really had to really have people that we trusted, do all of our work for us. And we would just jump in when we were needed. Some of the things we would try to take on ourselves, but for the most part, really relied on outside counsel. And then the pandemic hit. And then, really, of course, a lot of the deal work stopped. And we shifted though. That's the thing I think that people need to understand about us is that we had to just take, okay, we're maybe not doing new deals, but what we want to do is need to go negotiate some of our old deals. We've got to get suppliers to help us with cost cutting. We've got to go to the airports and ask for either complete deferrals or letting us go from any of our fees that we owe for that because they're so large. And so just trying to help the airline sustain itself while we get through this is really where the work has shifted. And unfortunately with that, of course, budgets have shrunk too for our for our legal spend. So, we've really worked hard with our outside counsel to not only reduce that legal spend, but really having to take a lot of that in ourselves, which is a challenge. And we really pride ourselves on being nimble and being able to turn things quickly because we wanted, before the pandemic, we were trying to get things out. A client had something, we didn't have that reputation of, or wanting that reputation of, sitting on, oh, great, it's all hung up in legal, or it's, we can't get this deal done because we're waiting on legal. And so, that's where we were like, okay, we've got to make sure we're turning things quickly. We understand the business needs and we want to get these things out. So that it's really starting to pick up again now a little bit. We're starting to see an uptick in some of our work, which is good. So we're able to go back and get some of that work out to our outside counsel as needed.
And so how has your day-to-day changed in terms of expectations on your time? Are you looking at a longer day, just a more fragmented day, even personal things that come up? I know tons of lawyers right now are dealing with kids and just being in the home environment a lot of times has been difficult. So maybe tell us a little bit about what that experience has been like for you and kind of how it's impacted your work on a
Sure.
day-to-day basis.
So certainly at the beginning of the pandemic, I was working from home 24/7. And when I say 24/7, I was online. And I think everybody else can relate to this too. You were so used to going into the office and going through just your regular normal day. And things were just coming at us so quickly that, I have worked, I will say, more during this pandemic than I think I had in the previous couple of years, just because it was just coming at us so fast and so frequently, and we were having to obviously do it all ourselves. And then on top of being, me personally, for being a mom to two kids, one was in 8th grade at the time, and then the other one was in 2nd grade. And my 8th grader was able to handle her schoolwork okay, and being online and doing that whole shift. But it was really challenging for my 2nd grader, at the beginning of the pandemic, because he just, learning how to know where your passwords are for all these apps and so it was a lot of hands-on, and so it was tough. And I'm in a 2 household working parent world here, so but we really worked with my husband and I both really worked with the kids to try to get through that. And as we started school this year, my daughter going into high school, my son going into 3rd grade, it was a lot easier. I think the school did a good job of transitioning us, and getting us used to that. But and they're all now back to school, thank goodness, in person. So, and I'm going into American Airlines has had us, anybody who was a director and above has been going in on either an A/B schedule to try to continue to, have social distancing in place. But so I've been going into the office more often, and I feel that you don't realize how much you miss it until you get back there. But it's funny, I do feel like I'm very effective at home. And I almost work more hours at home because I'm just able to just almost get out of bed, send the kids to school, and then plop right onto the computer and just work, and then work, pretty late too. So, I do feel like it's been a good adjustment for everybody.
Yeah, you can sneak in a mid-afternoon workout and then go right back to
Well,
it.
not me, because I've done the whole gain the COVID-19 pounds, but for everybody else, some people, you go back to the office and they look great. I'm thinking, did you not bake banana bread like the rest of us? So
Yeah, that's right. So a quick question just about your current counsel, because I think a big part of business development is not only finding the new clients, but also keeping the ones you have. That's really important. So do you have any sort of comments on either different expectations during the pandemic for counsel you already have, or things you would like to see from them, maybe a level of self-awareness about what's going on with you guys, some extra help, anything like that for your currently engaged counsel?
So for our current counsel that we had, prior to and during the pandemic, I will say they went above and beyond for us, and I have never personally been more proud to associate with our current counsel from outside firms. They, from anything from deep discounts to some of them just writing off their time, or just saying, look, we're here for you if you need anything. I had so many personal calls and said, we understand where you guys are, just call us, don't worry about it, we will take care of you. And they did. And for me, that just gained so much loyalty to those firms, because they didn't have to do that. And some of them were big firms and some of them were small firms, which I know they were struggling as well. And so it really meant a lot to me that they not only that they took that initiative, because we didn't ask for that, but certainly accepted it because we needed it. And so that for me really showed that they had my best interest in mind, that they had the company's best interest, and really, I think for me, and that's what you really want in your outside counsel, is to be able to trust them and know that they have your back. And they did that. And so now, as we're starting to, have more work that I'm able to feed to outside counsel, I do want to almost reward that our current counsel that did that for us, that took all those sacrifices for us, because They worked with us, and I want to make sure that I'm able to give them, whatever work I can. But that being said, that doesn't mean that, we're not open to engaging new outside counsel. One example of that is, during COVID, we had I was inundated with emails from firms, ones that we currently engage, and then also other ones, just about all their expertise and how they have all these, people on panel that could, tell us anything we needed to know about regulations or orders that were going on. And that was great. But then I actually had a matter that came up that was in Tarrant County. And when I did a search of some of all these emails, and I did my internet research, and I'm going through all of this, and I'm just thinking, yeah, nothing really, everything's very broad and generic, but I don't see anything that's really specific to Tarrant County. And even in my own research in this, it was very broad, and some of the language was really vague. But what I remembered was that through LinkedIn, there was an individual, and I wasn't connected to the individual, but I was connected. I follow the firm, and they had done a little bit of work from us for other stuff, but not really anything big. But I just remember seeing over and over, this individual would post things specific to Dallas and Tarrant County, and then also just in Texas in general. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this person a call and see if they can tell me some, answers to my question specifically about Tarrant County. And they did. And it was quick. It was efficient. I did get like a 3-page memo of legalese. It was very business minded. And because of that, I thought, well, this is wonderful. And we've also given now subsequent work to them because of that. And so you just kind of never know, some of the things, if you have something that you're interested in, or you have a subject matter expertise in, it's good to get it out there. You just never know, who's going to reach out at any time and do that. Because at that point, I didn't know any of my current firms would have, this expertise. And certainly this person really, really came through for me. Another thing is we're reaching out, really know the client. For American Airlines, we're getting into new spaces that we haven't before, such as carbon offset, and just new things that are coming, and new technologies and things like that. So if you have something that you could bring that's of value to us that perhaps some of our current counsel, doesn't have, then that would be something of value, I think, that we would need, to engage new outside counsel on.
And so before the pandemic, can you talk a little bit about how you would typically find and source outside counsel? Were you a happy hour person? Are you, involved in board organizations? How did you kind of make these connections before? And then how has that changed since? You mentioned LinkedIn, obviously, and that people are kind of flooding your inbox a little bit, which I think has happened, hopefully slowed down a little bit as we move on. But just talk to me a little bit about the difference between the way that you would find these folks before and how you're finding them now.
Yeah, I do think it was just a variety of different ways. Some of it was some of the networking events. I am chair of our legal department diversity, equity, and inclusion steering committee. And so with that, I would go to various conferences all over the nation, NAMWolf or TMCP or some of these other ones. And I would meet people, and some of that was just organic, and that's kind of how I like to do it. I don't know that I really like to be, shoved, down on certain things, but and I do think that if you have the opportunity to come in to present for new business, again, know your client and know what they do. We had a couple of firms that came in and tried to pitch business to us, and in particular, my group, the corporate commercial group. And in it, I think they had no idea what we really do, because they're talking about how great their, antitrust group is, or their M&A group, and we're like, well, we're a big airline, we're not going to be merging with another airline right now, and things like that. So and that sort of puts you off a little bit, because you think, well, I mean, I just gave you 2 hours of my time. You brought in all these materials, which are pretty and they look great, but they have nothing to do with what I do on a daily basis. And so, and even if you have that relationship, usually to get into, even have a pitch meeting, you've got to have a relationship. Reach out to that person that you have a relationship with and say, tell me a little bit about these people. What do they do? What do they need? one of the things I just can't stand at this point are the email pitches, because again, they don't really know who I am or what I do. And so I get so many emails from firms saying, hey, I just saw this case was filed. I could help you in this litigation. And then, I used to write back and say, oh, sorry, that's actually not my area. I apologize, but thank you so much. And then they write back and say, okay, well, can you forward this to somebody in your department who is in litigation? I'm thinking, you could just go on the internet or LinkedIn and find that. And to me, that shows almost laziness. And it's like, okay, if you can't even do that little piece when you're really trying to get my business, what are you going to do when you have my business? So really, really, if outside counsel and if you're trying to pitch new things, really get to know who you're pitching to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And so in terms of, not kind of sending the cold emails, are you looking more at sort of maybe your current counsel to give referrals to people if you need to go somewhere new, or your personal network to give sort of a referral if you need to go somewhere new?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do think that it does come from that. I'm not against email pitches. It's just if you have something really targeted and it catches my eye, then yeah. So I'm not saying don't do it, but just make sure you know
Right.
who you're speaking to when you do that pitch. And again, and I'm fine with even reaching out on LinkedIn too. I mean, if you've taken the time to look at my profile, you want to friend me and we can talk about things. I have hired counsel like that too, because and again, maybe it wasn't right away, certainly, but after, become connected with you, I start to see some of your posts. I really enjoy reading people's posts on different subjects, but in particular things that, are related to the airline industry. And we do a lot of things that are not related to the airline industry. So there are a lot of articles that, maybe I'm not really good about liking things or commenting on things on, LinkedIn or whatever it may be, but I am good about actually reading it, especially if I'm sitting at a kid's soccer game waiting for it to start. Those are the kind of things that I can take in and digest really quickly. And that's really how I like to do it.
And so in terms of sort of the substantive content, because I know I told you when we talked before this, we wanted to do this series because there are a lot of panels of outside counsel, and I'm one of the guilty ones, who have put together, this is how we're doing business development. And this is how we think you should do it during the pandemic to be effective. And one of the things that has become really popular on those panels are sort of this idea of substantive articles. This is the way we're not doing the happy hours and the events, unless they're virtual. So here's a way that we can invest our time to not only kind of become better experts in our field, but also maybe get the attention of clients who are looking for that type of service. So in terms of the more substantive, meaty stuff, would you say typically you respond better to something that is in kind of a bite-sized piece that is focused on an issue that you can kind of pull up, refresh on, and just shorter periods of time, rather than a really long sort of article?
Yeah, and I think all of our news sources have become like that, right? And so,
Yeah.
and I think that's how we're all reading things. And so, yeah, I'm not going to sit down and read a 4-page, thesis on on a particular matter. But if you could give me some quick bites and or even give me some, quick 3-paragraph thing, and then if I want to dive in deeper, then go into something like that, then that's fine. But or just give me the opportunity to give you a call on it. I think that's great too. But that's really how I like to get my news. And because I am so short of time, being a working mom, and just my workload currently, I simply just don't have time to sit down and read, as much as I think I would like to in these times.
Right. Yeah, it's the whole concept of TLDR, right? Too long, didn't read. Just tell me the beginning, and then I'll decide if I want to read the rest.
Right.
And so, so how have you, you mentioned the cold emails. How have you been approached during this period by new firms who are looking to be engaged by American? And has any of that to you, just have people stood out in either a really great or a really sort of negative way?
So for me personally, what's near and dear to my heart, and I don't speak for the rest of American, but for me, I like to see some of the diversity numbers that you have in your firm, either on your team or even firm-wide. I have really focused and made a conscious effort to focus steering some of my work to those firms that have a high number of folks working on it that are, as women of color or women, period, or LGBTQ, anything that can, show me that you guys are dedicated to it, and that not only are you putting people in the pitch meetings, but I want to see people who are on my matters and then are promoting or having a pathway to promotion to partner, and actually showing me that that's happening. And I know it's hard. I know it's a difficult path, but there's got to be a way. And I think anything that we can do as the client to help facilitate that is something that I'm willing to do. And so that for me personally is what I want to see in any pitches, is again, not just saying, oh, we have this amount. It's like, no, these are the people who will be working on your matter and have the subject matter expertise in it.
Right. And then you expect those people to actually be working on the matter,
Yeah.
present, in the room or on the call, or kind of not behind the scenes. I know diversity is important to y'all, and you're speaking to, of course, a group that is extremely interested in that. So that's great to hear. And to us, one of the things that we've tried to promote at DWLA is a lasting involvement and a client interaction by, a diverse group of people. Because like you said, if you get brought to the pitch, but then you're kind of shoved in the research room, that doesn't
help things, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't do what we're trying to do. So that's so great to hear. And I wanted to ask, lawyers are really trying to be creative. I think I have been impressed by all of our little A-type brains during this pandemic, because I think people are really looking for, okay, since we can't meet in person, what is something that I can do to touch someone new or reinforce a relationship and make sure that it's enjoyable for that person, that we maybe get some contact with each other, that we strengthen our relationship. So I'll tell you, we've seen a lot of different ways to do that. People have been obviously speaking on panels, virtual panels. There have been some sort of virtual events like wine tastings or, other sort of small group things that are over Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are the more remote options, I would say, like sending an article, or maybe, just sending the bottle of wine and saying, like, we're thinking about you. Here's our number. So for you, have any of those things been better, worse? Do you not have time for a Zoom meeting right now? Would you rather just get the little, email tap that says, I'm thinking about you? What do you think about those things?
So one of the things that I have found effective, and we've certainly either given more business to or have hired some new counsel, is if you have a great CLE that you, again, for your expertise, if you have a CLE, we're all kind of struggling because we're all used to going to these conferences where you get gobs of CLE. And so if you have something that's really good and either timely or works with whatever we're doing for business, or just plain interesting, pitch it to us. And that gets you in front of so many, you and your firm really in front of so many people. And again, helps you. And if you can get some of your associates who are diverse and can get into that, that shows us too that you have a commitment to them to put them in front of the client too. And so that's one of the ideas that I thought was really interesting and good. And again, it could be done virtually. You don't have to do anything. And then we're getting something personally out of it on our end. And so that's something creative that I thought people were doing, was offering up CLEs And then some of the other things too is even connecting us with other clients of yours. And so that's really neat to meet people who are, and again, it doesn't have to be in the same space, but for me, it's other big major corporations in the DFW area. If you can do a CLE or a virtual happy hour or something like that, that I can just talk with other people who are in-house with me, and and even have like topics that we can talk about. That would be really interesting and something that I would love to get on board with. We've had a couple of firms that have done, again, like brown bag lunches almost with us, and it was more of a just get together and let's talk about things, see how you're doing, and that's been really fun too, because I do miss our outside counsel. I was very close with, and I'm used to seeing so regularly, face to face, and with this, it's been hard to make those connections, and I think when you're out of sight, you're a little bit out of mind. So, anything that you can do to try to engage the client without going overboard. I mean, nobody wants to sit on a 2-hour Zoom call by any means. But one thing I also will mention too is if you do have a meeting with In-House Counsel and you send a Zoom meeting or a WebEx or a Microsoft Teams meeting, and then I show up and I'm on camera, but you're not, it's so awkward. So just if you're not going to be on camera, just send me an old fashioned like conference call line, because it's a little bit like, well, okay, I got dressed for this, like, and then you didn't even bother, to get online. So little etiquette things like that really make a difference too. And we're all a little bit high stress, and really little things that maybe wouldn't have bothered us before maybe bother us now. So try to be thoughtful and how you're presenting yourself. If you're, even if it's just a simple, email that you're sending, try to be concise and try to make things, easier for us, because at the end of the day, that's the counsel. I like to hire people who are smarter than me and who make my life easier. So.
Yeah. That sounds like a great goal. And I think you've given us a lot of really great specific tips. The major takeaways I'm getting, which I think should apply to business development in any world, but, make sure you have a little dash of self-awareness, or a really big one, that makes you thoughtful about in-house counsel's time, what they're looking for, their business needs. And then, try to be creative in a way that's going to not only sort of highlight what your firm does and what you can provide, but also provide some benefit to you guys, which I think is great. Everybody somehow during this pandemic has more and also less time. So somehow we did that to ourselves. But, I think the major message that I'm hearing is that y'all have less time than ever before. And so everything needs to be very tailored and respectful of your time. And I'll definitely carry that with me. So thank you so much for joining us. And unless you have any other thoughts, I think we'll sign off for today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Sure. All right. We're signing off.